Hello, this project was formulated from a gap in the research surrounding human-animal relationships and bonds in zoos. Research indicates that bonds may form between keepers and their animals, but that bonds may be weaker than those with their pets and may vary across taxa. Positive relationships between keepers and their animals may improve welfare and may also impact on manageability of captive animals. To investigate if alternating the keeper providing care to and the level of bond a keeper perceives to have with an animal influence the behavioural response to the changing of care, I observed behaviour in a Scarlet Ibis group and a Colobus group at ZSL London Zoo. Measurable behaviours grouped into categories such as affiliative, activity, retreat or social of the animals, and proximities to the keeper were recorded for all the time a keeper was present in or around the enclosure. Following the behavioural data collection, a questionnaire in the form of a pet attachment survey was sent out to keepers to determine the level of relationship with their animals. Results showed that keepers achieved scores ranging from poorly bonded to well bonded. Scarlet Ibis keepers had a statistical tendency to score higher, indicating weaker bonds than Colobus keepers. There were no significant differences in relationship score according to other variables. Relationship score and keeper had no significant effect on the mean frequency of Scarlet Ibis, retreat, activity or affiliative behaviours, and had no effect on Colobus, activity, affiliative behaviours, social behaviours or close proximity. Time spent providing husbandry and years worked with the study species were also non-significant as predictors within the model. The behavioural data gained in this study implies a neutral relationship between the Colobus and their keepers, with general activity behaviours predominantly recorded, and affiliative behaviours and those in close proximity only making up a small proportion of the behaviours observed. It was encouraging, though, that no retreat or aggressive behaviours were observed in the Colobus in the duration of this study. A negative relationship between the Scarlet Ibis and their keepers could be implied, as retreat behaviours were the most common behaviours observed, with few affiliative behaviours recorded and no instances of Scarlet Ibis being near the keeper. As it is generally positive relationships that lead to the formation of a human-animal bond, and because there is no evidence of reciprocation from the animals, the definition of a human-animal bond is not fulfilled between the species and keepers in this study, despite some strong attachment relationship scores being achieved. In these figures, arrows depict times of keeper change and the green lines indicate relationship score. There was no significance in changes of behaviour before and after a keeper changed across all categories of behaviour for both species. Limitations to this study include the impacts of COVID-19. Keeper staffing routines were altered during this time, and by being stretched, keepers' time spent interacting with and in close proximity to their animals may have been impacted. Other limitations to this study included limited fields of camera view and the small sample sizes, which led to some confounding between variables, of which a particularly frustrating confound was the one between keeper and relationship score. To conclude, true bonds were not identified in this study, as the behavioural data does not indicate any reciprocation from the animal to the keeper. There are no welfare concerns with the neutral Colobus relationship identified, but there is room for improvement with the promotion of positive relations. Recommendations to improve the negative relationship identified in the Scarlet Ibis include investigating if neutral or positive relationships are possible by focusing more time establishing human-animal relationships, or alternatively providing increased density of shrubs in the enclosure to decrease the need for the ibis to retreat. Despite the lack of bonds, the change of keeper providing daily care and the differing bonds between keeper and animal was not identified as a potential negative stressor, as behaviours did not significantly change accordingly. This provides encouraging results for zoo animal welfare. However, reducing the number of keepers per animal and how many times keepers change may facilitate the formation of bonds which may better welfare. The author would like to thank the Zoological Society of London for hosting and supporting this study, the primate and bird keepers for their participation and logistical assistance, and thank you to the Animal Welfare Foundation for funding this research.